We've all heard the Macklemore song and joked about popping tags as we search our local Goodwill for a good deal. It's an assumption among most people that thrift shopping is inherently good. It's good for the environment and sustainability, it doesn't contribute to fast fashion, and it provides affordable apparel to lower income consumers. All of these are true. However, there are several aspects of thrift shopping that are often forgotten, some that are not so favorable. As thrifting becomes more of a mainstream hobby, it becomes increasingly important to consider the lack of ethics within these businesses, primarily those of employee care, as well as their domestic and international economic implications. According to Goodwill's most recently updated website, their mission is to enhance people's dignity and quality of life by strengthening their communities, eliminating their barriers to opportunity, and helping them reach their full potential through learning and the power of work. And while this is a generally well-received sentiment, there are actions taken by this company in recent years that do not abide by these words. An article published by NBC News describes Goodwill's utilization of a 1930 law that allows them to underpay disabled employees. So in several states across the country, there are employees earning under $1 per hour, and in some cases 20 to 30 cents per hour. On the flip side, there was a World Herald investigation that revealed that Frank McGee, the CEO of Goodwill Omaha, had earned $933,000 in just 1 year. This is $650,000 more dollars than the next highest paid CEO of a nonprofit in that same city. So, one of Goodwill's core values, as listed on their website, is stewardship, which they define as honoring their heritage while being socially, financially, and environmentally responsible. And while the underpayment of disabled employees and the overpayment of their CEOs is not illegal, it does not abide by the words they're advertising to the public. There are more considerations to be made regarding thrift shopping in the U.S. than just these polarized wages. The newfound popularity of thrift shopping I mentioned earlier among wealthy youth has negative ramifications for lower income consumers who need the low prices of secondhand clothing. An Observer article discusses the impact of gentrification not just on New York City as a whole, but more specifically their thrift stores. As New York City becomes less inhabitable for lower income residents, so does its thrift stores. Two of the primary thrift stores in the city, Goodwill and the Salvation Army, have closed within the past 5 years. The thrift stores that are lucky enough to survive the incredibly high rent here have turned into luxury destinations with haute couture items and high-end fashion with prices reaching into the hundreds. This is not a sustainable lifestyle for the typical thrift market, and the insertion of relatively wealthy individuals into New York City's thrift scene has destroyed the market for affordable apparel. The actions of American and European thrift stores and charities reach far beyond just their borders. The dumping of undesirable goods into African countries has nearly collapsed their economies on several occasions. In a book by Samuel Wangui, he discusses the history of the textile industry in Kenya from the 1960s through the 1980s, and how it was booming and increasing exponentially until the late 1980s and the early 1990s, when the importation of secondhand clothes into these countries started. This ruined the market here. According to an article posted to The Guardian, over 70% of clothes donated across the world end up in Africa in modern times. And so to combat this, local government officials have instituted a ban on secondhand clothing imports. And so this isn't an attempt to rehabilitate the textile industry here. However, over the past couple of decades, a new industry has formed within the textile merchandisers who take the secondhand clothing and resell it. So even though a ban on imported goods will help the textile industry, it will hurt this merchant industry. And so the waste and the ignorance of these thrift stores has left East Africa in a catch-22 kind of situation where no matter what they choose, their economy will suffer. And so while there are many definite economic and environmental benefits to thrift shopping, every set of positives comes with its own negatives, and thrift shopping is no exception. Although certain establishments define themselves as charities or nonprofits, that does not mean that they necessarily are helping their communities. Similarly, viewing thrift shopping as a game and looking for low deals and reselling them on websites like Depop and ThredUp can be really lucrative and a fun activity. However, the increase in demand for thrift clothing has increased prices as well and made it less accessible to lower income consumers. Lastly, the careless dumping of leftover materials into African countries has nearly ruined their economies on several occasions and destroyed well established industries. Thank you.